Well, a good Monday morning to all of you. I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Thanks for joining us on this KREM 2 Plus exclusive Weather Impact Alert live stream. It's December 1st. It's the first day of meteorological winter, and we are tracking a bit of winter weather for tonight. Not a ton, not a major snowstorm, but just enough to make sure that you're all in the know and got that heads up for a bit of winter weather, especially winter weather driving for tonight and early tomorrow morning. So here's the 411 for our weather impact alert. It's a light snowfall. It's probably only going to be about 1 inch of total snow, which does not sound like very much, but sometimes that can be just enough to make things very slippery and a bit icy on some of the streets. So that's why I wanted to go forth with our weather impact alert day, because I do think this affects the Tuesday morning commute primarily. Some of that snow, even starting right now, the bulk of it that will accumulate will start later on for tonight. So that's kind of the general gist of it. So let's break it down into our when, our impact, and what you need to know here for our snow that starts tonight. We'll start with the time frame here. I have this starting at about 8 o'clock for Spokane. Some models as early as 7, some as late as 9. So I went 8 o'clock as kind of the center point and that center line for the beginning of more accumulating snow showers. The latest we'll see that snow is 10 a.m. Tuesday morning. So that's a 14-hour window, all that to get maybe 1 inch of snow. So this is very light snow overall. The big difference here, especially if you want to compare it to last week's snow, where we did get officially 0.8 of an inch of snow at the airport, a little bit less over downtown. The big difference here is that this snow is going to stick. It's been a bit colder recently. Our temperatures have been below 32 degrees. Really all day yesterday, we had a high of 30. Today I'm forecasting a high of 32. So if it's going to stay below freezing, that means the ground is colder. The roads and the streets are colder. They will be more likely to pick up and hold on to that snow as opposed to having that slush scenario that we had last week, where it was really just the grass, if anything, that held on to it. So light snow tonight, tomorrow morning. It'll just make for a very cautious morning commute. So a little bit of a slower go. And if that means you just got to wake up 10 minutes earlier, if you got to hit the snooze alarm one less time on your watch or your phone, all that to get to where you need to go safely, I think that would be recommended. Even our own coworkers that get in the very, very early hours of the morning, they're expecting to get here just a little bit earlier because they know they're going to have to take it just a little bit slower for the roads, even for a half an inch or 1 inch of snow. It's not much, but it can slow you down. So here's what's happening right now. You were probably just thinking, didn't you just say 8 o'clock? Yeah, but this is really just flurries at the moment. I'm going to be curious to head outside to our own outdoor weather center, which I will be for our noon broadcast, to see if we might be seeing our first light snowfall even in the afternoon. This is just the very beginning of it. I think the accumulating snow is going to be a lot more later on today. But as we'll take you through a tour of Doppler radar, basically we're all on the snow side of the scale. You see the key, the legend at the top of the screen. We're not going to see any rain for today. It's just been too cold. Even our current temperatures are still near 30 degrees at 11 a.m. So we're all on the snow side of the scale. So what you want to look for is more the darker blue shades. The darker that blue is, the heavier the snowfall. If you're just looking at kind of more pure white, that's the lightest end of the scale. And that's going to be just maybe snowflakes or flurries that won't yet accumulate. Now we're starting over Bonner County. So here's Sandpoint, and in the last hour, it's probably been a bit on and off, so you might just start to see some snowflakes as things are starting to fill in. It's not looking quite as scattered, it's looking widespread, but overall, I mean, this is a very bright screen. It just kind of looks white out here. So really, this is very light snow, if anything, if it's even hitting the ground. You can follow that down Highway 2 to Old Town, and I know Newport whatever our computer places it over here, it's really right on the county line. So Old Town Newport probably also getting the same, a bit of some light snow or flurries. You can follow that farther south. Looks like Spirit Lake towards Rathdrum and even Coeur d'Alene now just starting to pick up a bit of that, again, very light snow, that darker blue shade. I wouldn't call this super dark, but enough that it stands out, especially between Trent Avenue north of Liberty Lake. Follow that towards Rathdrum is kind of the heaviest moment right now. Might be just enough for the grass to start picking up a few snowflakes at first. the roads, especially the highways themselves, like Trent or like I-90, because of the traffic, the tires generate a little bit of extra heat into the road. So I don't think those streets are going to be wildly affected this afternoon. They probably don't get any accumulations yet. You have to wait till overnight for that traffic to really diminish to see anything change. I'd be curious to see if Coeur d'Alene is just starting to pick up some snowflakes in the last couple minutes. Same in Spokane. It's kind of built from the north to downtown now. This all looks very light. Again, just the brightest white shades is the lightest end of this scale. So if anything, the clouds are probably just starting to spit out their first snowflakes. Not enough to give us accumulations or any slick roads yet for the midday or afternoon. But we're monitoring it because it is certainly here. All right, let's go on down south towards the Palouse. Here's Pullman and Moscow. Again, doesn't that look a little bit darker in terms of blue? Again, that would be a slightly more moderate snow shower that just passed through, enough for maybe the grass to start picking up a few of those snowflakes. But kind of the same story. I think the major highways like Highway 195 and Highway 95 in Idaho are probably doing just okay because the traffic and that little extra heat from the friction and the traction of the tires adds just enough to stave off any kind of accumulations immediately. That plus any treatment like de-icer or sand or salt. I saw a few parking lots that were already salted today. That was not going to hold any of this kind of snow. This would be way too light and just way too fickle. Now we'll take you out to Grant County. That looks a little bit more heavier in terms of the blue. The only difference here is that since this is a bit farther away from the Doppler radar site, which is in Airway Heights, the Doppler radar is really looking a couple thousand feet in the sky. So it's probably seen plenty of snow hung above our heads. How much of that is hitting the ground is also a big question mark. That's something we can only know by physical observation points. So if you're getting snowfall, shoot us a message. Would love to know that heading into the noon show and be able to correlate what Doppler radar sees in the sky to what the actual on-the-ground observations are with our own eyes. That's why I love getting outside and into our outdoor weather center, because sometimes you see a lot of white and a lot of blue, but not much might be falling down. So that's just one of the big unknowns, but I can tell you that Doppler radar is seeing all this snowfall. Now, whether it's contained above you or if it's actually starting to pour down, well, that's the big unknown. But it does look like Moses Lake to Coulee City, Soap Lake, Grand Coulee, just starting to also pick up maybe some snow if it is hitting the ground. But that's a little bit harder to tell because Doppler radar does have to look. Man, it's like 4,000 or 5,000 feet in the sky, which is kind of tall, especially from our own vantage point. So that's what's happening right now, which is a lot of flurries in the air. That's a lot of Doppler radar watching for probably not a whole lot of effect yet. As that wave of snow, which is kind of right over the center of the inland northwest, moves more over the North Idaho mountains, these areas will start picking up more accumulating snow, starting with the mountains and mountain passes. So these are winter weather advisories in purple. So you see that mainly for the Shoshone County. We call this a zone. This is the Shoshone County zone, Silver Valley zone. Lookout passes included in this. I would say in the Silver Valley for Kellogg and Wallace, you're probably not technically under the advisory for this event because you're going to get less snow even at that lower elevation just compared to the mountains and mountain passes around you. But Lookout Pass is definitely under this, with this kicking in at 1 p.m. today, lasting till 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. That means if you're heading over Lookout Pass during that time frame, just prepare for some winter weather driving because road conditions can deteriorate quickly because of those snow conditions. Now, of course, I-90 is right on the pass, and that tends to get quite a lot of attention and treatment. So hopefully the crews are already well ahead of the game and well prepared, which is honestly the messaging we're trying to give you. Just be prepared because that just can go a long way anytime it snows, especially if it's just going to be a couple inches. So that's the winter weather advisories. We are not going to get advisories for Spokane, nor Coeur d'Alene, or really any of the other lower elevations. This is just too light of a snowfall to proc that level of alert. But again, because this is going to be a Tuesday morning event, I wanted to make sure that you are all prepared for this. It's a light snowfall. We can handle it. We just know that somebody might be caught off guard. So hopefully it won't be you, especially if you're watching this. The big difference is that our temperatures are colder compared to last week's snow. Remember, last week was a Tuesday night, Wednesday morning snow, and it was wet. It was slushy. by 10 a.m., a lot of that even melted into the late morning, afternoon. This time we're below freezing. That snow is going to stick to the ground, and it is going to stick around at least for a little bit. So that's why a few more roads might be affected rather than just the grass or some isolated sidewalks or bridges this time. The ground's cold enough to hold on to that snow, and I do think it will have a slightly bigger impact compared to last week. All right, here we go. Full snowfall totals. This is not much. 1/2 an inch, so we'll call it about 1/2 an inch for Spokane. Same out of Davenport, and just a little bit higher in Coeur d'Alene and Deer Park, where I go, about 1 inch of snow. Our northern areas likely get the most, so you're looking at Colville to Sandpoint, Newport, Old Town, also in that 1 to 2 inch range. The Silver Valley does get slightly more, 2 to 3 inches of snow there. Lookout Pass is in that 3 to 6 range, just nearby and at that slightly higher elevation point. The Palouse is also at about 1/2 inch of snow, so this is not getting carried away. This is no major snowstorm. This is nothing like what our friends are getting out east and in the Midwest. My family in Wisconsin got about 8 inches of snow over the weekend. Yeah, it's not going to be that. This is not going to be a snow day, kids, unfortunately. We can handle 1/2 inch of snow. Funny enough, though, have a couple coworkers that are going to go through their first snowfall ever living here in Spokane. They're from some more southern states, and they were certainly a little hesitant and apprehensive, even seeing 1 inch of snow. And honestly, that's a pretty fair feeling and sentiment, is that if this is going to be your first winter here locally, first of all, welcome. It is beautiful here in the wintertime. We love it when it snows, but you got to be prepared for it. So just drive a little bit slower, a little bit more cautiously. Just keep your foot off the gas, because that's the biggest mistake that newcomers make to the snow. They think that they're losing momentum, so they got to go faster, and that is not how you want to drive in the snow. You got to let yourself just go a bit slower, even if it's an inch. Because think about it, an inch of snow, that between your tires and the pavement can make it very slippery. So 1 inch doesn't seem like a lot, but sometimes it can make the difference, whether or not things are full speed or going a little bit slower. But this is just all I'm expecting. 1/2 an inch, 1 inch of snow, no big deal there, right? As long as we're prepared, we should get through our Tuesday morning commute, albeit maybe just a little bit slower than normal. Let's take you to Future Tracker. This is going to help us time out this snowfall, because I had mentioned that 8 p.m. Tonight to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning is the main window. So the current flurries excluded from that. Really, this is going to be more of a mountain snow for North Idaho into the afternoon. Wait for the next wave to come in. I stop our Future Tracker at exactly 8 p.m. This is the wave I was looking at. Again, darker blue shades representing slightly heavier snowfall. Now, this is still going to be light overall, just based on the total amount of snow that we're going to get. We might see a lot of snowflakes in the air. A lot of that's just going to compress down onto the ground pretty quickly. But this is where it begins. About 8 p.m. tonight, give or take an hour or two for Spokane, Coeur d'Alene. Looks like it'll be a little bit closer to 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. for Pullman. After it gets started, it's kind of on and off. I noticed that we have that initial wave tonight at around 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We get a break around midnight, and then we get kind of a second wave of some scattered snow showers, a cluster of snow showers right away tomorrow morning. Here's 5 a.m., and if it just starts snowing at that moment, that's what's going to most affect the commute. I mentioned the traffic a couple times. If you got a ton of cars driving on a single street, eventually it just warms up the street just based on the tires. But between midnight and 5 a.m., there's not a lot of cars out there on the roads. And that's what really allows the major road temperatures to fall and get closer to what the air temperatures are. This is what could really affect road conditions on I-90 or Highway 2 or Highway 195, etc. So we'll be very cautious for that. We'll be on air straight away at 5 a.m., let you know how those conditions are, and we'll watch that progress and how that develops through the morning. The good news is that our modeling gives us that kind of last burst of snow between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., and it kind of finishes things up pretty quickly. Here's 9 a.m. There's still a little bit of snow towards Pullman, maybe even Lewiston as well. but I think largely we'll be about finished by the time we get to 8, 9 a.m. in Spokane. I left it until 10 a.m. Some models were as late as that. I think after that point, we are going to be A-OK. Any kind of traffic or treatment is going to help things along. So a lot of side streets, a lot of sidewalks, probably going to end up being a little bit slippier than we like them to be. I think the major roadways, highways, I-90, and even arterials will be the first to get that treatment and should be A-OK as well, but still take it cautious. So all in all, I think the snow impacts are still pretty minor for the region. If you're getting a ½ inch of snow or 1 inch of snow, I'll keep it as minor weather impacts. It's the mountain passes, it's the Silver Valley that probably ends up more on the moderate end of this scale. Nothing hugely significant. This is no winter storm for the inland Northwest as far as we're concerned. It just feels kind of like the first real snowfall of the season if you exclude last week's snow, which came and slushed and melted just as quickly. Just kind of a second stab at the first snowfall of the season, if you will. Let's cover mountain passes here, because mountain passes can oftentimes get a lot more snow than what low elevations will get. I think the overall strength of this storm is on the lower end, but Lookout Pass will definitely get affected more than others. The snow is going to begin pretty shortly here today. In fact, the picture you see here is a live picture. This is actually on the Montana side, looking towards Idaho here. Snow begins probably in just a couple hours. I go 3 to 6 inches of snow, which is a pretty good chunk of snow. Now, again, with it being I-90, I think it's going to get a lot of treatment and a lot of attention, and that hopefully will keep road conditions looking more wet than icy, but still be very careful if you are heading over Lookout Pass this afternoon, especially this evening or even tomorrow morning, just because that is when the bulk of that snowfall is going to come down. That's 3 to 6 inches. Meanwhile, Sherman Pass in northern Washington just gets less snow overall, which is surprising enough. I'm only going 1 inch of snow, and that's all actually falling basically right now, the afternoon. It'll miss the bulk of the evening and tomorrow morning snowfall here. So this is going to be okay, but notice the pass itself always has just like a little bit of snow and ice always on it. That pass is above 6,000 feet of elevation. It's the highest elevation pass that stays open year-round in Washington state. So you're going to be cautious no matter what if you're going over Sherman Pass, just because there's just constantly and almost permanently snow and ice on the roads. This just adds that extra inch. Meanwhile, in Snoqualmie Pass, I'm actually more optimistic here on the west side. Notice that these road conditions are very much wet, and funny enough, snow levels are also climbing at the moment. So any snow that may be falling right now is actually just going to transition to rain by tonight and tomorrow. That's right, the forecast for Tuesday is actually just rain at Snoqualmie Pass, one of our lower elevation passes, just under 3,000 feet of elevation. So that is actually doing okay. It's very much wet most of the winter time anyways there. I just don't think the problems are going to be all that severe for Snoqualmie. And that actually lines up. It's Lookout Pass that's under the winter weather advisory. Snoqualmie Pass is not, and that's quite a difference in terms of elevation from near 5,000 feet at Lookout Pass to less than 3,000 feet at Snoqualmie Pass. A lot of talk of temperatures, because this is the big difference between last week and this week, is that this week, well, we're basically been below freezing. High temperature yesterday was just 30 degrees on Sunday. And today I go a high of 32 in Spokane. Our modeling just updated and actually bumped up Pullman and Coeur d'Alene to 33, which is a degree above the freezing mark. That could help, maybe, but I think with the nighttime temperature is still between about 28 and 30 degrees, I just think everything's going to fall as snow. The ground and the roads are cold enough to actually support the snowfall as opposed to just the grass. So since it's been cold recently from this past weekend, and even today we're going to struggle to get above 32 degrees, it's just going to make a difference here. And most of our current temperatures are like 32, 33 right now, and we actually just kind of hover at about 32 to 31 degrees leading into that 8 p.m., 10 p.m. midnight. Our modeling goes 32. I personally think 28 is where we're going to be for tonight. That's going to make a big difference in terms of getting the snow to actually stick to the ground and stick to the roads as opposed to it melting on contact. The only exception is the streets that are treated. A bit of de-icer, a bit of salt, a bit of sand can help to actually melt that snow as it hits the ground, because it actually just lowers the melting point, is physically what the salt does. It doesn't make it warmer. It just says, okay, freezing isn't 32, freezing is now 20 degrees. So if it's 28, the snow hits that patch of ground with the salt on it, and it's actually just too warm to stay frozen, and that's why the salt works and the salt melts off that snow. We're going to be at about 32 through tonight. Again, this is about where that first batch of snow will be. Tomorrow morning is that second batch. So we'll just recap things. This is all very light as you see it right now, but it is the first wave of light snow and flurries and snow showers that are just developing. After 8 p.m. tonight is when we'll get kind of our first real snow cluster, and that's when our snow is going to start accumulating. It won't be a ton, but it may be enough to affect the Tuesday morning commute. And that's why we've gone with a weather impact alert day. We won't have winter weather advisories because this is just quite simply not enough snowfall to prompt winter weather advisories or winter storm warnings, though early enough in the season and infrequent enough in terms of snowfall that it was certainly worthy to make sure that everybody got that 24 hours heads up leading into tonight and tomorrow morning. The mountain passes will get the most snowfall overall out towards Lookout Pass. They'll get over 3 inches of snow. Most of us on the low end of total snowfall, but this time that ½ an inch that's expected in Spokane is going to stick to the ground instead of just becoming slush like last week. So a ½ an inch of snow for Spokane and the Palouse, 1 inch of snow for Coeur d'Alene, and up to 2 inches of snow for far North Idaho and northeastern Washington. There you go. Well, stay safe tonight if you are going to be hitting the roads late this evening, and of course through tomorrow morning. We'll have the latest on this very light snowfall today at the KREM 2 News at noon. That's coming up in just a few minutes, so make sure to stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. You can always follow me on all the social media platforms for the latest information. Thank you very much for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus. Have a great rest of your Monday. Happy December 1st, meteorological winter, and stay safe with the snowfall tonight.